have you all come in for the Medicare program. We have David Wiley, Lori Wiley, and Robin Dawson here. They are from Medicare Solutions Network, and they've been coming to the library now for years. Again, I always say years because I don't have the exact count, but it's been many years, and we like to have them here a couple times a year, in the spring and in the fall. And we have a lot of people who like to come again and again to learn more and pick up on more details. So rest assured we will have them back again another time in the fall. And we're also having this recorded tonight by Channel 6, so there will be a recording of this as well. So thank you again for coming.
What we're doing here tonight is hopefully going to learn a little bit about Medicare. First thing I want to do is a test. Can you guys hear me? I'm supposed to be mic'd up. You got me in the back? Good. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. We want to talk a little bit tonight about Medicare, but who's doing the talking? Myself, my wife Lori, the lovely and talented Robin Dawson. We are insurance agents. Don't let that scare you, because we're not here tonight to sell anything. Tonight's purely about education. What drives this conversation are your questions. I know where I want to start, and I know where we got to end, but in between, what you need to know is what you need to know. Raise your hand. We'll talk about these things. Started teaching this class about 15 years ago now, because we found so many people were coming to the world of Medicare, and they would make what we would diplomatically call less than fully informed decisions. That means they made mistakes. When you approach 65, you're going to feel a lot like this guy. Everybody and their brother wants to tell you what to do. Your friends and family, they love you, but they may not even understand what they've done. Your mailbox will fill up with so much crap from the insurance companies it almost tips over. The phone rings off the hook. You become very, very popular because they can see that you're turning 65. There's 10,000 of us a day turning 65. This is big business. And what is infuriating about all this flurry of information, and it's not really information, it's more propaganda, it's advertising. But what that indicates is a world of competition. And if we know how to harness this competition and use it to our advantage, to understand the field of play, to understand this maze, and to make moves strategically through the aging process, we have the potential to save a small fortune. Most people don't. Most people make one decision, they throw it in the drawer, they never look at it again. That's a tactical mistake. You come to this world and you maybe go out and you buy Medicare for Dummies. I love it. 419 pages long. How dumb could it be? Okay? You've got Medicare books and you've got all sorts of information. You've got all this mail filling up your mailbox, everybody trying to tell you what to do. Take a deep breath, take a step back, and first, let's understand the world of Medicare and how it works. That's what we want to do here tonight. Want to take you all the way around the barn. What is Medicare? What does it cover? What does it not cover? What can we do about what it doesn't cover? And what will be strategies as we age to maybe save money along the way? This is the first tool that I would recommend you try to get your hands on. This is the Bible of my industry, Medicare and You. It's not advertising, it comes from the federal government, from CMS, the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. We're not federal employees, we're not with Medicare, we're the brokers that sell the products that support your original Medicare. What we'll find here tonight is Medicare is an excellent program, the basis of which will be your Medicare Part A and Part B, which is really good stuff. It's just not complete, so we need to make it complete if we're going to sleep well at night. This book does two things incredibly well. It's chock full of knowledge. It's also a tremendous sleeping aid. If you have trouble dozing off, this thing will knock you down in pretty short order. It's a dry read because it's a government publication. You're looking for black and white answers in a sea of gray. Nobody wants to stick their nose out and tell you what to do. They're going to tell you could be, maybe, sort of, kind of, sometimes might sort of be, other times it might not be. That's why we would always recommend you meet with a broker. That's what we do. We represent the products that support Medicare, but we represent the vast majority of those products. You could find yourself working with a captive agent, and that would be an agent that only works for one company and only represents one set of products. I would put forth to you that's not in your best interests because, for example, drug programs, right? There's 24 different drug programs. My God, why 24? Because different people have different needs. Each of those 24 programs has a specific utilization that could be perfect for you and completely wrong for your wife. The beauty of Medicare, everything is done on an individual basis. So we can customize a program for the husband and customize a program for the wife and change those through the years if it's appropriate. This book, Medicare and You, is backed up by an excellent phone number that is manned 24 hours a day. Medicare, 1-800-Medicare. 1-800-Medicare, write it down. Saturday night at 2 a.m. like Jake from State Farm, they're waiting for your phone call and they'll give you straight answers. This is a great source of information. The book, the 800 number, backed up by a wonderful website. The website is medicare.gov, G-O-V. Please note the difference. It's not a .com site. Medicare.com is a sales site. I don't know how they even let that come to market. It's confusing to people. I've had clients that have called and said, oh no, I did everything you said to do. I signed up. And I'm like, well, can I see the confirmation? No, they didn't go to medicare.gov. They went to medicare.com. And any of these websites, be careful as you visit them. They're going to capture your information, and you thought you were getting phone calls before. Your phone's going to ring off the hook, and they'll load you up with even more mail. But this whole idea of this new sheriff in town, your new support system, Medicare helping you to make decisions, and there are tectonic shifts when we come to the world of Medicare. And it's challenging because you got to kind of check what you learned in your first 65 years at the door. You've got some experiences with insurance, probably pretty limited experiences. Typically, most people that are coming to the world of Medicare are coming off of a group health insurance program through their employer, which was a wonderful benefit, but it kept you completely shielded from the fights that went on in the boardroom to try to make your health care coverage affordable. There are networks and deductibles and co-payments and co-insurance, and there's drug programs and a wellness benefit. They made all those decisions, and they come to you and they bring you a one-size-fits-most, but it's not customizable. You take it or leave it. Well, of course you took it. Well, now you come to Medicare and you get to make those decisions. And that becomes overwhelming initially, but it's somewhat liberating when you realize that you get to customize a program for your specific needs. That's what's beautiful about it. Medicare's different. In the under 65 world, you were always a couple, married couple. Well, now you come to Medicare, they want to break you up. Why? Well, because your needs could be totally different than your wife's needs. And that represents opportunities that we'll talk about a little bit furthermore down the road. But the idea here is to embrace this change, to learn about it, and to move into this new world fully cognizant of what your options are. What's Medicare? Pretty simply, it's the federal insurance program for folks over 65. You could wait longer if you continue to work. You could even get it earlier if you're declared disabled. Those people have their own special, unique situations, and we work with that population quite a bit. But most of the folks that we work with typically are coming to Medicare at 65. The idea here is that it's a wonderful program, but the takeaway of this slide is very important here. As good as Medicare is, and we'll put forth to you tonight, it's an excellent program. It's just not complete. And to make it complete, we might want to add some additional things to make that complete. This is where your journey typically begins. This is your Medicare card, the red, white, and blue card. And I would bet that if you looked at your mom and dad's card, I would almost bet that their effective date was the first day of the month in which they turned 65. That used to be the golden finish line. That's where everybody started the world of Medicare. You made it to 65, it's time to retire and take the grandkids fishing. But the baby boomers are driving significant changes here. And one of the most notable changes is that not everybody's ready to activate Medicare at 65 anymore. Most baby boomers are in better shape at 65 than their parents were at 55. They like their job, they like the money, they like the insurance, they're going to keep working. And this represents one of the first potholes that people will fall into in the world of Medicare. Your friends and family love you, and they're going to berate you about the fact that when you're turning 65, you've got to sign up for Medicare or there's going to be big problems. There's going to be penalties. You're going to miss it completely. You're going to get shut out for the rest of your life. It's a big time for fear-mongering, but slow down for a second. This can wait if you have creditable coverage. Creditable coverage is defined as you've got group insurance through your employer and more than 20 people work there. If you continue that insurance, you can hold off on this. Typically, A can't hurt you. A has no premium, but the B does have a premium. And far too many people come to 65, activate A and B, and continue to keep their coverage through work, only to find out further down the road, all this would be doing is standing secondarily to your employer insurance. And that's a lot of money to pay for secondary coverage. You want to be ahead of the curve here. We work with far too many people who ignore it, and wait till the last minute. The government does not move swiftly, okay? This isn't like the DMV where you're going to go in and get a temporary and come walking out. No, when you apply for Medicare, that's generally going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks for you to get fully activated in the system. It would go effective as of the first day of any month. Medicare always operates on the first of the month. So if you were born on the 23rd, you'd go effective the first day of that month. Or if you continue to hold off and keep your employer coverage, you can delay, and further down the road, we can activate this Medicare without penalty or delay. A and B cover us for different stuff. We're going to run through that here in a second. But basically, A is all of your facilities, B is all of your services. But in a world where people are jumping the gun without making fully informed decisions, I think the last one that we saw that was so sad was the guy was 82 years of age. He stayed on his wife's coverage because the wife's coverage was very good coverage. And finally, he had been to a couple of seminars, and he finally agreed, hey, yeah, maybe this Medicare thing is a better place to be. And surely it was for him. So we agreed on some products, and we put everything together, and can you pull out your Medicare card? And lo and behold, he activated his Medicare A and B when he turned 65. For 17 years, he's been paying a premium for something he never needed because his wife's coverage was primary. That's bitter. Bitter when you find that out, because that's a lot of money that didn't need to be spent. You have this window, many different enrollment periods, and this can get confusing, but understand when you first turn 65, you couldn't even apply for Medicare more than 3 months out. They'll tell you thanks, but no thanks, we're busy. The people at Social Security are swamped. Every day at Social Security, 10,000 baby boomers. I mean, it's every morning's Custer and the Indians and their Custer. The doors open up and here they come. So they wouldn't even want to talk to you more than 3 months out. But anytime in this window, you could go right online through ssa.gov, the federal government, and you could sign up to activate your Medicare. Or maybe if you continue to work, you could go ahead and take the Part A. That has no premium, but the B you'd certainly want to hold off on. You've got the month that you turn 65 and 3 months after that where you can apply for this Medicare thing. But we always say, people, we'd rather be talking to you in here, right? People always ask, when's the right time to meet to talk about Medicare? And I always say, whenever you feel your blood pressure going up. Because far too many people worry about this and worry about it. And when they finally come to the realization of how good it is, I understand it's a great relief, but I'd rather have you sleeping better for months ahead of schedule. So we always want to be ahead of the curve here. You won't automatically get this card unless you are receiving Social Security benefit payments. If the government knows that they can snatch the premium for the Part B, they'll default and send you the card. Read the back of the card. You can send it back if you don't want it. But it's not going to automatically happen. They're going to wait to hear from you. Typically, A can't hurt you unless you're in a health insurance program known as a health savings account, an HSA type of account. We want to be clear on an HSA. The government says you can't have either of these and still make your tax-deductible contributions into your HSA. If you have that kind of health insurance, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably just have a standard PPO or an HMO through your employer. But you want to be careful on this A and B, because when you finally do get around to signing up for Medicare, from the date you apply, they're going to backdate that A 6 months. So the rule with an HSA, don't be making any contributions within 6 months of activating your Medicare. They'll send you the card automatically if you're getting your Social Security benefit payments, but understand these are two separate benefits, right? Medicare is the medical benefit. Social Security, that's where they send you back less money than you ever sent them, okay? Note, Part B has a premium. That base premium this year is $164.90. You wouldn't need to pay that if you stayed on your employer program. But that $164.90, beware, it's graded for income. This thing is going to capture a lot of money, and it's going to trick a lot of baby boomers who didn't see it coming. This thing's called IRMA, your income-related monthly adjustment amount. We love our acronyms. IRMA, oh, my favorite aunt, is based on Maggie. Maggie's your modified adjusted gross income. What they're doing is the government is looking at their computers. Their computers are a step behind. In 2023, they only have visual on what you filed in 2022. What you filed in 2022 actually reports what you made in 2021. Get in the time machine and go back. In 2021, is it possible that you made more than $194,000? I've seen many clients who have said, I've never made that kind of money before in my life. Okay, good. Get a call a few weeks later after their Medicare goes effective, and lo and behold, they're being charged more. Why is that? Well, wait a second. Did you do any of those Roth conversions where you took a bunch of money out of your 401k and put it into a Roth IRA? Cool, Roth, tax-free further down the road, but that transfer of funds from the 401k into the Roth, remember how you paid taxes on that? That was a taxable event. That was income. That could drive up what you're earning as far as the government's concerned. Got to be careful about this, because not only do they bump you on the Part B for boy, they're also going to tag you a little bit on the drug program as well. But note, they have a heart. The government knows they're a step behind, and you do have the ability to appeal these higher amounts based upon certain life-changing events. The most common life-changing event is a reduction in work hours or retirement. It wouldn't be unusual at all that you would build to your greatest income at 65 or 66 or 67, but then you're going to retire and that income's going to come down. There's a formal appeal process. Everything in the world of the government has a form. We fill out the form, we submit it to Social Security, we have proof that our income is dropping. They'll reassess these numbers and drive them down. But you just got to be really careful, because the sale of stocks or taking money out of your 401k. We had clients last year, they took money out of their 401k to help their daughter buy a condo. That was a lovely thing. But they took out $5,000 too much, and now as a result, both of them are paying more for their B and their D than they should have. I love my government. I just don't want to give them one more nickel than they're already taking. Be forewarned and be forearmed. There's 4 different parts to Medicare. We're going to cover them all here tonight. The foundation is going to be A and B. A and B going to form the basis for all the other stuff we're going to talk about. Got to have A and B to do anything else. Once we've got A and B, you enter the wonderland of Medicare. You could certainly think about picking up a drug program. That would be smart. And you might even be tempted by these things called advantage plans. This is the stuff that Joe Namath and Jimmy J.J. Walker and William Shatner are hawking on TV. But to get to either of these, we got to have this to be able to do that. So what we want to do is we want to tear this apart, and we want to understand, first of all, what are you getting from the federal government? And that's where we use this. Does everybody have our Medicare roadmap? I will not apologize. It is basic and simple and straight ahead. I've seen far too much literature that's got chutes and ladders and graphics and colors, and it gets really confusing. Let's break it down and try to keep it as simple as possible. In this world, we're looking at the world of Medicare from the Goodyear blimp. We're looking down on it. And what we need to understand is, to start our process, we need A and B. Got to have A and B to do anything else. Once we've got A and B, and we understand that it's good but not complete, we'd look to pick up more coverage to make it complete. And that idea, those coverages can take 2 different pathways. One pathway called Original Medicare. That's where we're going to use A and B. We're going to add a drug program and a supplement. And those 3 pieces working in concert, I'll show you we can customize a program for you that is so insane that you could literally have a $226 annual deductible and walk on everything else. That's crazy good. Or the concept of insurance has always been a sharing of risk. How much risk are you willing to assume? Everybody that we work with has a different value equation. We're always preaching the gospel of value. I hate it when people say, am I getting a deal? You really want a deal on your health insurance? You want a deal on your health insurance. You want value for your particular situation. Everyone's value equation is a little different. It's an algebraic equation that's comprised of your health, your risk tolerance, your finances, your personal history, what mom and dad did. There's any number of reasons that you would have a different value equation than your neighbor or the guy at work. That's why we're always saying, when people try to tell you what to do, that's probably not as helpful as people who tell you who you might work with that could help you make these decisions. A and B, really good but not complete. A drug program and a supplement. One pathway called Original Medicare. Or you could choose this other side of the equation. It's called, for the moment, they're calling it a Medicare Advantage program. But I'm predicting by the end of this year, there's some legislation pending, and we want to get that out of there. We want to take the word Medicare out of Advantage. Why? Because it isn't Medicare. It's a private health insurance alternative. Doesn't have the same catchy grab, can't show you that big pulsating Medicare card on the TV ads, but what it is Medicare now will pay a private insurance company and they can step in and run the show. Now this is a question of your value equation. An Advantage program will always have a little bit more network restrictions and co-payments for services, but your trade-off is you get much lower premiums. And we'll talk about that all here tonight. But understand the concept. Two different pathways. We can migrate between them as we age. One might be right for dad, a different one might be right for mom. But we'll beat them all with a stick here tonight. But we got to start with A and B. What are you getting from the federal government? What starts the process? Well, let's look at Medicare Part A. I love it when agents say A is free. It's not free. You paid a boatload in taxes. They don't just charge you more when you come to the party. A has no premium. And if there's one word for A, it's facilities, buildings, all the buildings you're going to come into contact with. Well, certainly no building could be more important than the hospital. But under Medicare Part A, the hospital has a copayment. You're not getting off scot-free. You've got some skin in the game. Medicare was never designed to cover 100%. Then from the hospital, you might discharge, can't go home right away. You'll go to a skilled nursing facility. That's rehab or step down. Medicare likes that a lot. They don't have an MRI machine on every floor. They don't have an emergency room downstairs losing money hand over fist. And Medicare covers us for skilled nursing, but there's co-pays for skilled nursing. Home health, your own home, they'll send a medical professional right to your front door to help you get back on your feet. But by definition, home health is for major problems, and it's a pretty limited period of time they're going to show up. Their job is to get you back on your feet, out to see the doctors where it's less expensive. And hospice, whether that was in a freestanding hospice facility or the privacy of your own home, that's going to bill up under Medicare Part A. A has no premium, but it clearly has exposure, and that's what this looks like. If you go spend one night in the hospital and all you have is original Medicare, that first night you have a $1,600 copayment. That's on you. But that starts a benefit window of 60 days. So you could go in for your burst appendix and you're in there for a couple of nights. It all goes well. You go home and 3 weeks later you got nothing better to do. You decide to have a heart attack and go back into the hospital. If you're within your benefit window, they won't charge you the $1,600 again. But on day 61, boo, whoop, whole thing resets. And you could potentially, if you timed it just wrong, you could hit this thing several times in a year if all you had was original Medicare. You go from the hospital, you go into skilled nursing, and skilled nursing is a wonderful benefit. Medicare will cover you up to 100 nights of skilled nursing. But those 100 nights are broken up. The first 20 nights, no charge to you. But the next 80 nights, Medicare says, we'll work with you, but now you've got a copayment of $200 per night for those additional nights in skilled nursing. And please understand, Medicare does not pay for long-term care. They don't pay for assisted living. They don't pay for custodial living. That's on you. And after 100 nights, they're going to say, if you want to stay in the skilled nursing facility, that's all on you, okay? Now, Medicare, we often describe as a world of partial sentences and half-truths and floating asterisks if you didn't know where to look or educate yourself. This is a good example where skilled nursing has an asterisk. This is a great benefit, but to get that benefit, there's a trigger point. The trigger point says that you need to be admitted into the hospital for 3 nights to earn this benefit. 2 nights doesn't work, 1 night doesn't work. These days you can get into the hospital 2 ways. One is being admitted. There's a diagnosis. Something's wrong, we're going to find it, we're going to fix it. But the other way that you could spend the night in the hospital is under observational status. That means we're not really sure what's going wrong, but we'd sure think you'd be better off spending the night and being closer to the emergency room if something went wrong. Observational stays do not tick the 3 nights necessary to get this benefit. And this points out one of the realities of our world as we move into Medicare. You got to defend yourself at all times. You always want to know, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are the alternatives? If I lost 10 pounds, do I have to take it? Does it come in a generic, and do you have any samples? I mean, we really need to become much more involved in our healthcare, and this is a great example. People can be surprised because they were clearly in the hospital for 3 nights. Yes, ma'am, but 2 of those were observational. You were only admitted for 1 night. Be careful. Home health services, no charge to you, but again, that's going to be wound dressing after a major medical event, or maybe a couple of physical therapy visits. They're not sticking around for long. And then hospice, we put down 5%. That's almost unfair. Medicare picks up almost everything with regards to hospice, but there can be a very small co-payment for the medications you take to remain comfortable before you pass away. Okay? There's A, no premium, but clearly we have exposure. What about B? B does have a premium. Why? Because B is doing the heavy lifting. B is really where you're going to use your services more than anything else. A would be all of the buildings. B would be everything that goes on in the buildings. Okay? All of the doctors that you see, all of the specialists that you see, whether you saw them in the hospital or in their office, they're billing up under B. There might have been an anesthesiologist one time that knocked you out so a surgeon could operate on you. Wait a second, that happened in the hospital. What's this for? That's for the gurney and the bright lights and the operating theater. All of your labor charges are coming through B. Labs, everything from a blood test to a biopsy. All of your diagnostic testing, we call that the expensive alphabet soup. EKG, EEG, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, stress test, all come up under B. DME, durable medical equipment. That could be a walker or a wheelchair. That could be a pacemaker or a brand new knee. Physical therapy, the ambulance that takes us to the emergency room, all of your outpatient services, and that's basically anything surgical that didn't have you spending the night in the hospital is going to bill up under Part B. This could be a colonoscopy or a cataract. These days, they're even doing outpatient knee replacement surgery. I don't know if anybody's had one of those, but it's pretty amazing. You check in early in the morning, you're leaving that afternoon with your new knee. And the last part of B would be clinical RX. And that's fancy talk for medications that are delivered in a medical setting, also known as god-awful. Chemotherapy, kidney dialysis, radiation treatment. Women get Prolia shots, incredibly expensive, but they're administered in the doctor's office, so they bill up under Medicare Part B. Those heavy-duty meds are different than our maintenance medications. That's where we'll need a Part D drug prescription program. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. But Part D program, that's for your maintenance, the stuff you're getting high blood pressure at Jewel Osco or your cholesterol that you're picking up at CVS. All of these services have an annual deductible. After the deductible, there is cost sharing. If anybody here is in the Affordable Care Act, which I am, and Lori and I are, then you might know the real cost of health insurance. The real cost of health insurance is about $1,000 per person per month. How you get at that, your employer's picking up some of it, or maybe you're getting a subsidy from the government for your ACA plan, or maybe you've got an employer plan, but the real cost is about $1,000 a month for this thing. But in our world, Lori and I each pay $1,000 a month to have a $7,000 deductible. That's what the Affordable Care Act is. It's pretty crazy. So when I tell you here, Medicare Part B has a deductible of $226. If you can wrap your mind around that, you're better than me. $226, I don't think you could find any doctor that would retail for under that amount. I don't think you could find a blood panel that retails for under $300. But the first $226 is on you. Once you've paid that $226, then Medicare is going to show up and start splitting bills with you. They're going to pick up 80 cents on the dollar. They're going to hold you responsible for 20 cents on the dollar. Good news, it's an unlimited benefit. If you need 5 knee replacements, they will literally pay for 5 knee replacements. But the scary part is the 20% has no firewall. It does not stop. It keeps going and running up, and it goes as far as you want to go. Unlimited benefit, but unlimited exposure. And that means on every one of those 5 knee replacements, well, you could run into that hospitalization every 61 days, and you might be hit up by the skilled nursing facility. Hospice, at that point, you don't care. The $226 deductible is pretty negligible in today's terms, but that unlimited 20%, that'll scare you. Because 20% of a lot is a lot, even though it's only 20%. Good news gets even better because once you've paid your $226 annual deductible, even before you get to this cost share, call it that little dash there, Medicare starts taking their negotiated discount. Has anybody here worked with a parent or a loved one on a Medicare advice of notice and your payments? When you see the discount that Medicare takes, you'll be stunned. Because quite literally, the cardiologist says, I'm brilliant, I charge $350. Medicare says, you're adorable, we pay $80. Of the 80, you're responsible for 20% of the 80. That's how good it is. We had a gentleman in the office a couple of weeks ago. He went to see a podiatrist. That's a foot doctor. By the time Medicare took their negotiated discount and he was held for 20%, he saw the podiatrist for $12. That's pretty good stuff. But the fact of the matter is, it's the scary nature. And the cornerstone of insurance has always been, what if? What if? So most people are not willing to ride with just A and B. They want to pick up some additional coverage to make it more complete. If you understood the cost of health care, you'd still have to say, in a moment of reflection, okay, I get it. There's some exposure here, and I don't like that. And there's the unlimited 20%, and I don't like that. But for the base premium of $164.90, this is a steal. I mean, this is a tremendous value. But again, because it's not complete, people will look to pick up more coverage to make it complete. All right, drink of water. Are you guys with me so far? Any questions? You're being far too quiet.
Yeah, this is all new. I've never paid for insurance in my whole career.
Okay, do you work for FedEx? Do you work for FedEx? I had a client in a couple of weeks ago. His wife burst into tears. She couldn't understand that they had to pay for this. You're in a situation. You've been in a bubble.
Since I was 21, I've been in the union, and even my retirement, I retired early. In January, I turned 65, and then I get off my insurance.
Okay.
But that's full coverage, medical, dental, and vision. Mm-hmm. You know, for nothing.
Well, wait. Well, for nothing except your blood, sweat, and tears, and your years of working, sure, and the achy, creaky joints and stuff. I mean, I see the guys who worked on the railroad, I mean, that's hard labor. I don't know one of them that doesn't have a blown out knee or a fused back or a torn shoulder. Well, there you go. So it wasn't for nothing, but it was a tremendous benefit. That's what unions used to bring us. I don't know if they can do that as much anymore now because it's gotten very expensive, right? So we've got A and B here now, and now we got to figure out how we can make it complete. How do we make this more complete and better for us as consumers? A and B, we're going to look at this pathway called Original Medicare, and I want to get rid of that exposure, so I'm going to look to pick up a Medicare supplement. A supplement is a package of benefits brought to us by private insurance companies that's going to stand behind your new coverage on this pathway here is called Medicare. Your insurance is Medicare. Medicare is primary, Medicare is nationwide, Medicare does all the billing, does all the negotiating, doesn't pay for everything, so you can pick up secondary insurance to supplement what Medicare does, or if you prefer the term, we call them Medigap plans, to fill in the gaps of what Medicare doesn't cover. But here's where you start to see the beauty of Medicare. This new sheriff in town that's running the show. If you looked at insurance in the under 65 market, I dare say your head would explode. Mine does, and I do it for a living. Aetna's package of benefits is different than what Cigna offers, which is different than what Humana or United Healthcare, Blue Cross is totally different. Medicare says, we're not playing those games, boys. You want to sell Medicare supplements, this is how you'll sell Medicare supplements. It's the second page in your handout. Medicare has developed a beautiful field of competition. Capitalism kept on the rails works. Medicare has base benefits. That's this column right here. That's what we just went through, what Medicare doesn't cover. And then Medicare allows for 10 packages of benefits to make your coverage more complete. And this is up to you. What's your value equation? How robust do you want your coverage to be? Do you want the penthouse? Do you want the pup tent? You okay with something in between? But this is always going to be a variation of what your value equation is. There's 10 packages of benefits. My God, why 10? Because different people have different needs. Do you want lavish coverage? We've got it. Do you want basic coverage? We've got it. Do you want a high deductible plan? We've got it. But it depends on what you need and what you want. If you look at this field of play, understand that Medicare says what each of these letters represent. Each letter representing a different package of benefits. But understand that Medicare has standardized these packages of benefits. If you were to look at N is in Nancy. N is a package of benefits. Medicare says what that package is. Wait a second. I'm getting mail from 40 companies that are selling Medicare supplements. Are you telling me that N from Blue Cross Blue Shield is similar to N from Mutual of Omaha? No, it's not similar. It's identical. Medicare says what N is, not the insurance companies. Yeah, but wait a second. I know my doctor takes Blue Cross Blue Shield. Does my doctor even take Mutual of Omaha? No, sir. Does your doctor take Medicare? Medicare's primary. Medicare's the network. Medicare's nationwide. And this is a tectonic shift. We talked about how you're coming from 65, under 65 to over 65. You almost got to check what you learned in your first 65 years at the door. This is a new world, a different world. In the under 65 world, you are determined by your network. Whoever that network, you're with Blue Cross Blue, you can't go outside of that network. If you do, you're going to get killed with out-of-network charges. I got it. Stay in network. Okay, so now I'm coming to Medicare. What's Medicare? Any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States, they take Medicare, you're in. You couldn't have a better network. People say, well, I want a PPO. It's the biggest PPO you could possibly have. Whether you're in Key West or the Grand Tetons, they take Medicare, you're in. So then we look to make this complete by picking up a package of benefits. If you study these through the years, you would see that traditionally the three that have typically driven the conversation are the F package, the G package, and the N package. F was, for a long time, the granddaddy of them all. F was so simple to understand. F says just pay that premium each month and it would wipe out all of your exposure. The $1,600 in the hospitalization, the skilled nursing copayment, the hospice copayment, all the 20%, and was even so complete that it would even pay your Part B deductible, that $226. And we've taken great pride through the years of ragging on F because it's so overpriced, it's so lavish. For a moment, think in terms of your automobile insurance. Would you ever consider carrying a zero deductible on your automobile insurance? That would be crazy expensive. And it is here too. I know how insurance companies work. The more you want them to do, they're happy to do it. But the more they do, the more they charge. And it never took long looking at F. If you had a calculator and just took a deep breath for a moment, compare F to G. Where F picks up everything, G picks up almost everything. Uh-oh, there's an empty space there. What is that? You're going to pay for that. That's coming out of your pocket. It's the Part B deductible. So if you got a pen, write 226 in there, 226. That's your annual Part B deductible, one time annually. What do you get for a deductible? You get lower premiums. And it was never more clear. We currently have over 40 companies that would sell you F if you qualified. They'd sell you the G, but you'd find that the G is at least $50 less per month than the F. Wait. So you're telling me I got the F, and I'm paying $600 more per year for one additional benefit, and what's that one benefit again? For your $600, they're paying the $226. Made no sense at all. Please.
That 226, is that per, or is that 226?
Everything's done individually now. Remember, we're not a couple anymore. Now we're treating everything separately.
226 with 400 something, right?
For the couple? Yeah, would be. Question over there? Okay. So G introduces the concept of cost sharing. Insurance companies love it when you accept more risk. This is why your $5,000 deductible on your automobile insurance is way less than the $1,000 deductible because you've accepted more responsibility in the relationship. Insurance works the same way here. So G says pick up a deductible and drive down your premiums. I'm good. How can I drive my premiums down more? Yes, sir, please.
Do these premiums vary among individuals or is that standard?
They're going to vary among 40 different insurance companies, but that's the beauty of capitalism, is they're all doing the same thing, so we can show you all 40, and we can show you where the best value is. Yes, those premiums will vary by age. As we get older, they get more expensive. If you smoke, they get more expensive. As we age, that's going to go up every year. But the idea here is if I've got 40 companies that are offering you G, they can't all be the same price. They're all doing the same thing, but they're not all the same price. Capitalism is a beautiful thing. It's a vicious world of competition. Everybody can see what everybody's doing. This is a place where people frequently make a mistake. There's an old adage that holds very true. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I got this figured out. They're doing the same thing, and it's exactly the same network, so I'm just going to bottom fish, and I'm going to find the cheapest company that offers if I want the G. But the problem with that is smaller companies can be very volatile. We would recommend on this field of play, typically there's 4 companies that we're going to look at, the ones that have stood the test of time, the ones that have A+ rating, been in the business for decades, and most importantly, insure huge pools of insured. Why? Because you can never be singled out for a rate increase on this field of play. If you do N with AARP, you go into a pool with everyone that's got N from AARP. They can't come to you and say, wait a second, you had a terrible year. First diagnosis, dread disease, snake bite, car wreck, fall off a roof, stroke out. They can't come to you and say, you were really expensive, we're going to raise your rates. No, your claims are shared by everyone, in this instance, that has N from AARP. Safety in numbers, bigger pools sharing risk over a giant population, traditionally, I can show you, have a much slower rate increase. I love the smaller companies. There's 3 brand new companies that have come to market. They've got really sharp rates, and they're paying a broker bonus if I can convince you to go with them. But the problem is the smaller companies are desperately trying to get to critical mass as quickly as they can, because if one guy has a lung transplant, everybody's rates go through the roof. The initial idea of a lower rate, I would say we'd want to stay with the companies that you've heard of here before, because that's where the steady money is. I'm not willing to hitch your wagon to a B- company and hope that they're going to be there in 20 years to pay claims. I would say this is where we stay with the big hitters. Please.
As you age, can you change your letter?
Sort of, kind of. Asterisk, okay? You get a window. When you first come to Medicare, on the supplements, you have a 1 year, what we call your golden ticket. 6 months before you activate Part B, and that could be at 65 or it could be at 82. 6 months before you activate Part B, 6 months after you activate Part B, go anywhere you want to go. All 40 companies got to take you. No underwriting, no medical questions, nothing. Guaranteed. Once you're with them, they can never drop you. You're theirs and they're yours till the day you die, and they can never single you out for a rate increase. That window, that 1 year window, that's what makes it very important to make wise choices here. But eventually, you've activated Part B and 6 months goes by. What happens after 6 months? You can change these every month of the year. But now they can ask you medical questions. And now they can say, wait a second, did you say hip replacement? Did you say wet macular degeneration? Did you say any number of things? They don't have to take you. So it's very important that we make wise choices initially. Please.
You said once you start coverage, you can change within 6 months after you make your coverage?
You have 6 months where you're fluid. You went with the brand new insurance company and didn't realize that might have been a mistake. Or you were over 67. This F thing got to be so expensive they don't even market it to new enrollees. F is no longer available unless you turn 65 before January 1st of 2020. So there's still a lot of people who initially took F. Why? 1, it was really easy to understand. 2, it was the most expensive thing you could possibly buy and paid the highest commission to the agents. Drove us crazy. We always, whenever we would do this presentation, we'd say, so ladies and gentlemen, that's why F stands for foolish. And there's still a lot of people out there that have F. Well, what's happening to that F risk pool? What's happening to that pool? Where'd the 65-year-olds go? Where'd the 66-year-olds go? They're not joining, and your pool is getting older and smaller and sicker. Those F rates are starting to accelerate through the roof because you're sharing claims with an older population that's filing a lot of claims. So they don't even offer F anymore. But the idea that you could make you remain fluid for that 6 months after you activate B gives you a chance to revisit that decision. And if your health is good, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm telling these guys want your business. If your health is good, they're all falling all over to win your business. They'll take your business, but they're going to ask you about 16 medical questions. And if you answer yes to any of them, they say thank you very much, but no thank you. And that's the way in Illinois. We have over 40 companies that offer these Medicare supplements, and every one of them is going to ask you medical questions if you want to move, except for one. We have a company, not two words you often hear in the same sentence. We have a blessing in Illinois. We've got a Medicare supplement company that does not ask medical questions. That gives us the flexibility to rescue that guy at 85. We had, Lori, how old was that woman that we worked with just about a month ago? Was she 91?
Yeah, she was.
91 years of age. Her daughter brings her in because she thinks her mom's paying too much. Mom's got F. Mom took F when she turned 65. When she turned 65, it was, $115 a month. It was no big deal. She's 91 now. It was almost $500 a month. Couldn't get through any medical questions, but we got a Medicare supplement company where we were able to move her to G, and we saved her close to $300 a month. That's a good feeling. Until the daughter wants to know, how long could my mom have been saving $300 a month? Well, she didn't make a fully informed decision initially. But the idea here is you do have some flexibility. The number one reason that you would be flexible is your health is good. Then all doors are open to us. But there's always strategies and possibilities to move. In Illinois, they've recently passed legislation surrounding your birthday. As of the 30 days that surrounds your birthday, if you had G and you wanted to downgrade to the N, they'd let you downgrade. So there's some flexibility without any medical questions. But the field keeps getting more competitive. The smaller companies come in here, and I love them because they lowball the market, but they force the big guys to stay within striking distance. If it's $8 more to get a brand name, I'm getting the brand name. If it's $80 more to get the brand name, tell me about that Northwest Arkansas. Tell me about that insurance company. People that you haven't heard of before may not be the best place to pitch your tent. F has no deductible, G has the deductible and drives down premiums. N says maybe a little bit more cost sharing could make sense, maybe. N says not only will you pay the Part B deductible, but you also agree to doctor co-payments. $20 to see a doctor, $20 to see a specialist, $50 if you go to the emergency room. That's pretty negligible in today's terms. And if you do the mathematics, we'd show you female turning 65 right now, that G is probably going to run somewhere in the neighborhood of about $125 a month. Best sleeping pill money can buy. After 226, everything's covered. But she might consider the N. She doesn't go to the doctor all that much, and she's pretty healthy. That N is going to be probably about $30 less per month because she accepted more responsibility. G, pay the deductible and walk on everything else. N, pay the deductible and doctor co-payments. Okay, $30 a month ain't much. Well, no, but that's times 12. That's $360 year one in savings on the N supplement. Yeah, but I got doctor co-payments. I agree. But with $20 doctor co-payments going into $360 of savings, the mathematics tells me she's got to be going to the doctor more than 18 times a year for N to have been a bad choice. If you're going to the doctor more than 18 times a year, we sure want to know about it because we're not going to recommend the N. But in an industry that is predicated upon trying to scare the bejesus out of you and get you to buy more insurance and more insurance still and even more insurance after that, we find that most people in this industry are tremendously overinsured. We run into far too many people who still have F. That woman was a glaring example. They don't understand the decision they made initially, and they'll defend what they've done because they'll tell you, I never see a bill. Well, yeah, the reason you never see a bill is there's a giant sucking sound coming out of your checking account every month to pay for the F supplement. That might not be the smartest financial decision. Look at this field of play. Understand what's going on here. The more you participate, the lower the premium on that product's going to be. No deductible is going to be more expensive than the one that's got the deductible. The one that's got the deductible is going to be more expensive than the one that's got the deductible and co-payments. You might even go crazy. Those little asterisks there, G has what they call a high deductible version. High deductible G says that you'd be willing to experience and accept the first $2,700 in charges. That would be on you. Now, that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I've been running with a $7,000 deductible. I got to get to $7,001 before I get a nickel of benefit. That $2,700 on that high deductible, that isn't really a deductible. That's a compilation of everything you've spent along the way with the 20% discount and all those things being added in. That $2,700 out-of-pocket maximum supplement is going to drive your premiums down even further. Going to drive that 65-year-old female down into the $40 range. For a $2,700 out-of-pocket maximum, that's better than just about anything you'd find in the open market on the Affordable Care Act or anything like that. More exposure driving down premiums, please.
If you decide not to go on Medicare until you're 70 or 69, you still have that 6 month prior and 6 month after.
If the reason you've decided is you have creditable coverage or your husband has creditable coverage, what do you do in the meantime? There you go. So yes, once you activate that Part B, that's where that window's going to start. 6 months before you activate B, 6 months after. All on the table, all available to you because you had creditable coverage. And that brings up an interesting concept in the world of Medicare. Remember how everything's done individually? I'd always counsel you when you get to 65, let's take just a quick reality check because you're on an employer plan through your loved one. And the loved one is paying $500 a month. Well, anybody with half a brain would know that's $250 on you and $250 on him. No, it's not. They love him. He works there. He could be as little as 25% of that $500, and you could be the other 75%. We see this happen frequently, where you're not paying a 50-50 split. If you look at what you pay as an individual or as you pay as an individual and a spouse, frequently we can break off the spouse, put them into a Medicare supplement and drug program, tremendously improve their network of doctors, tremendously lower their exposure, and lower their premiums. This is part of what we're doing here is playing chess. We want to understand the moves on the chessboard. It's always worth just a real quick reality check. And that's 3 questions. What's your network? This wins. What's your out-of-pocket maximum? This wins. How much are you paying to be on that coverage? If Medicare is even close, it's a better value, typically. Okay? Good question. All right. So here we are, please.
So do you have anything to know if you're going from Medicaid to Medicare?
Typically, they'll give you a notification. They'll send you a letter. That wheel moves really slowly. There's a whole bunch of people now, the number is actually 15 million, that are being taken off of Medicaid because the COVID funds have now dried up. We're finally admitting that COVID is hopefully in the rearview mirror, but there's 15 million of these people that were on Medicaid. And it was bitter irony to me, because I know how the government works. They never give you something with one hand that they're not busy taking away with the other. Everybody was dancing in the streets because they got the highest Social Security increase in years. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. That pushed a whole bunch of people up above that Medicaid threshold. And we've been working with people that now, in a year, are making $100 too much. Off they go. So you would get, anybody that was on Medicaid should get notification. You'll have at least 60 days to be able to make moves. So keep an eye out for that, okay? Other questions? Good, good, good. So the idea with a supplement is the more exposure that you're willing to accept, the more that drives premiums down. Okay, so that's good. So one way we could drive down premiums is to dig deeper into our pocket. The other way that we could drive down premiums would be possibly we don't need any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States. That's crazy. I can keep it within Blue Cross or United Healthcare or Humana or Cigna, and I would agree to network restrictions, and that could drive down premiums as well. Remember that concept when we get to Advantage. So here's A and B, good but not complete. Add a supplement. Which one is right for you could be totally different than the right one for your wife. Now we need to add a drug program. The drug programs, again, are going to play by Medicare rules. The new sheriff in town is Medicare. Medicare is calling the tune on these things, and Medicare says, here's your rules of engagement. 24 drug programs want your business. Those 24 drug programs get to choose from the Medicare menu. the formulary that Medicare allows to come to market. There's some medications Medicare doesn't even cover. They're too ridiculously expensive or brand new experimental. But this menu of drugs, I got 24 programs, and they're looking at that menu going, do we want to do all generics? Or do we want to do all brands? Or do we want to do a mixture? Do we only want to partner with Walgreens or CVS or Walmart? But these 24 programs have to figure out how they're going to be competitive, how they're going to make a living, how they're going to make this thing work. But they all got to show us their cards. That's the beauty of Medicare, is that there's robust competition and complete transparency. We'd see these drug programs this year. The least expensive drug program is $4.90 a month. It is tremendous. The most expensive drug program is almost $145 a month. Well, as you might imagine, this guy's in great shape. This guy's a wreck. But he'd pay a higher premium to get a broader selection of drugs for lower copayments. And again, we go back to the concept of insurance. Is it the penthouse? Is it the pup tent? Or is it something in between, what's right for your situation? But all drug programs got to play by Medicare rules. You do not have to take a drug program when you first come to Medicare. It would be a mistake to pass on that, but many people do. The philosophy in years gone by, I'm not taking anything. Anything I ever took was going to be generic. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll be fine. That's okay. The government is not going to come looking for you, but understand that the clock starts ticking and there's a penalty that starts to accrue. For every month you could have had drug coverage, but you decided not to take drug coverage. And that penalty is negligible. It's about 35 cents a month. It's not a big deal. But as the days tick by and the months tick by and the years tick by, and we ran into a woman this last open enrollment, she had slid by to the age of 90, and now all of a sudden the doctor tells her she needs to start taking this thing called Eliquis. Anybody know this? It's a blood thinner. It's a miracle drug. It's a phenomenal drug. It's about $600 a month, and she was floored. Well, okay, she knows now she needs to get a drug program, and we can rescue her because every year with the drug programs, every year on the drug programs, we get a guaranteed right to re-enroll, to change it, to move it. Not the same with supplements, but with drug programs every year between October 15th and December 7th. And if you didn't know those dates, don't worry. Every other commercial on TV will be screaming at you about the big changes to Medicare. They love to try to scare people. But we were able to put her into a drug program, got her that Eliquis for $47. That's a sweet deal, except for the fact that all those 35 cents for all those years get added up and put on her premium every month for the rest of her life. It's not a one-time penalty. It's an ongoing penalty for the rest of your life. So it's always better. And I understood she was widowed at that point. And I understand the thought process of her husband back in the day. Because when these things first started, the drug programs, nobody knew exactly what the risk factor was. And most of the drug programs were at least $40 a month. And I understand that. $40 on each of you, and you don't take any medications? That seems kind of stupid. So people would pass on the drug program. Well, that's when they were $40 a month. I kind of understood. But through the years, competition has brought it down. I mean, it wasn't 5 years ago we had our first drug program under $20 a month. That was a watershed. Then we went under 15. 2 years ago, we went under 10, and now we've got a drug program that's $4.90 a month. It might not be the right drug program for you, but if you're not taking anything, it's a great placeholder. Put your foot in the door, avoid the penalty. The worst thing that happens is you don't take a drug program, you get halfway into the year, and then all of a sudden now you find out you do need an Eliquis or a Xarelto, and it's a long time to get to January 1st to be able to put you back into coverage. All of these different drug programs will treat drugs differently. I know that sounds redundant, but that's what's going on. We have different drug programs catering to different parts of the population. Please.
What if your doctor tells you you need to be on an experimental drug? Does any part of Medicare cover that?
Laura, you want to take a swing at that?
Without knowing the name of the drug, I couldn't even answer that question.
There's usually a way. There's usually a way. The doctor can file for an exception. Medicare could possibly step in. There's grants, there's foundations. Usually if it's an experimental drug, a lot of these companies would be really excited to have you as a guinea pig. Let's pump it full into you and see what happens, right? But when you really get out onto the far fringes, remember, Medicare is going to cover you for a certain set of medications. You start getting outside the boundaries. But I mean, what they cover is pretty amazing. The one that really amazes me, I don't know if anybody watches these things on TV like I do. Have you seen the ads for Sky Rizzy? Have you seen the guy with the red arm? And he's got Sky Rizzy. When you see the price of Sky Rizzy, I would recommend he buys long sleeve shirts, okay? That Sky Rizzy is like $15,000 a month. It is insane. It's insane. Now, on most of these drug programs, we're going to break your drugs up into 5 tiers. Why? Your employer plan did this. Your employer plan had generics, had brands, and had specialty. Well, here, now Medicare breaks them up into 5 tiers, which forces even more competition, even more vicious capitalism working, trying to win your business. But understand, tier 1 drugs, those are going to be the super cheap things. Atorvastatin, simvastatin, metformin. There's any number of tier 1 drugs, and they're very inexpensive. The copayment on those, usually in most plans, could be as little as $0 per month. Then you've got non-preferred generics. Those are newer generics, things that have recently gone generic. Crestor recently went generic. Crestor was $110 a month. Now it's called rosuvastatin calcium, but it's a tier 2 generic. It's going to be a $5 copay on most of these plans. But now you break into the expensive stuff. Tier 3 drugs, these are drugs that are advertised on TV, okay? Tier 4 drugs, these are drugs that are advertised on TV by famous people. They're getting their chunk of dough. Tier 5, there's your Sky Rizzy. Tier 5 is the god-awful stuff. Oral chemo medications, AIDS medications, anti-rejection drugs for transplants, things you never even want to consider, but also understand those would be very expensive drugs and would likely have a very high copayment. That's Sky Rizzy. Even in the best case scenario, he's still paying $750 a month for the Sky Rizzy. But for a $15,000 drug, we might be able to justify that. The reason this tier structure is important is your copayments will go up with the drugs, but not only do your copayments, the reason the copayments go up is because Eliquis is a tier 3 drug. That's a $600 drug. You may be in a drug program, gets it to you for $47, but they aren't tracking what you spend. They track the retail value of the drugs. Please.
Your example of the Sky Rizzy thing, is that true of all biologics? I have the understanding that a biologic that you administer yourself,
that you got at a pharmacy.
What's that?
That you got in a pharmacy. That's when the drug program comes into play. But there are a lot of medications where the determining factor is if it's administered in the doctor's office, it would bill up under Medicare Part B. This goes back to what we said about defending yourself at all times. You may not get the med, but you may get something that's just as effective. And if it's, I'm not talking about you get the syringe and you go down to the doctor's office and you sit in the lobby and you give it to yourself. I'm talking about being infused in the doctor's office or an outpatient center. That could potentially...
I do take a med right now that I have to do myself. And it works beautifully, nothing else does, so I think I'm screwed.
Could be, but again, big pharma, you can love them or hate them, okay? I get both sides of the equation. You hate them because they're making so much money, but you love them because they're bringing us miracles. And most of the people that I work with that complain about big pharma, I gotta say, well, you wouldn't have to complain if they didn't have the med, because you wouldn't be here, you'd be dead, right? So these meds that they're developing are pretty amazing stuff. Those biologics, Humira is one, Enbrel is one. So, yeah, really expensive. But you got to have a heart-to-heart with your doctor. Is there a workaround? I don't know. Because those are tier 5 drugs. Please.
What about medical devices? For example, I'm diabetic, I have a continuous glucose monitor that has sensors, receivers, transmitters. Where does it? Is that covered by Medicare?
We covered that when we looked at Medicare Part B. Part B covers us for DME, durable medical equipment. Could be a walker or a wheelchair, could be a pacemaker, a new knee. It's that little lens that they put in your eye for cataracts. DME is going to bill up under Medicare Part B. That's a tremendous potential savings for you. Because, for example, on the G, you pay the $226. After that, it's all covered. Okay? That's good stuff. all right? But these tiers on these drugs, and what's important is not what you're paying, it's the retail value of the drug. Why? Because all drug programs, whether we talk about it built into the chassis of an Advantage program or on a standalone basis, all the drug programs have stages of coverage. And I know this is weird, I get it, but I used to have a professor who's, one of his famous quotes that I loved was, "A camel is a horse that was designed by committee." And that's what we have here. We have a drug program that was designed by Congress. And that's what this looks like. The world of the drug programs in Medicare Part D have different stages of coverage. We move through those stages, or maybe not at all, depending on what you're taking. This is the third page of your handout. Most of the drug programs have an annual deductible. Most of the drug programs, that deductible is $505. If you pay a higher premium, there'll be a lower deductible. But generally speaking, most of the programs have a $505 deductible. That means your first Eliquis, your first $600 drug, you're going to knock out that deductible. Once you've knocked out that deductible, whew, that hurt, but I'm okay. Now you're in the initial stage of coverage. And that's why you got a drug program, because now you're getting your Eliquis for maybe $47. You're paying $47 for a $600 drug. That's a pretty good deal. But you're paying $47, they're saying $600. You're paying $47, they're saying $600. And if the retail value of your meds in a calendar year this year, if it went over $4,660 worth of drugs, you're going to fall into this next stage called the coverage gap or the donut hole. You're still protected, but now you've got a much higher percentage of participation. Now you're paying 25% of a $600 drug. That's $150. You went from 47 to 150. 150 for a $600 drug still isn't the end of the world, but it's certainly something we want to see coming because this can jump up and surprise people. We get calls all the time at the end of the year, September, October. Somebody will call and say, you know, my neighbor said I should talk to you. Okay, what's going on? Well, I've been going to Walgreens every month and I've been getting my drugs and it's been $147. Okay, what's up? Well, I just went to pick up my drugs and they want like $690. I said, well, it sounds to me like you might have fallen into the coverage gap. Well, I can't have fallen into the coverage gap. I've only paid like $1,100 this year. I haven't gotten anywhere near $46.60. No, sir, it's not what you've spent. It's the retail value of the drugs that you've acquired along the way. And this coverage gap will surprise people. Understand what the government's doing here. They're trying to control your behavior. They're trying to encourage you to self-discover that with generics, it's very hard to imagine a world where you can eat $4,600 worth of generics unless you're having a bowl full every morning. But boy, you have a couple of tier 3 drugs, that can show up really quick. Our guy with Skyrizi, he blows through this entire set and winds up over here in catastrophic in a month, in 1 month. Cost him a fortune to get there, but then he gets into catastrophic. He pays 5% of the retail value of the drugs, but still 5% of a $1,500 drug is $750. We want to see this coming. We want to understand what our options are. We want to research and make fully informed decisions. Every year we get the opportunity to change our drug program. Most people don't. That's a tremendous mistake. You got to be looking at this and we'll help you. There are SHIP counselors. These are volunteers. They will help you. You can call the company directly. You can call 1-800-MEDICARE and they'll help you to make smart decisions. Or if you're good, you can do it yourself. It's pretty easy. We got this year 24 drug programs with 24 different formularies with 24 different prices. So all you need to do is call all 24 companies and spend about an hour on the phone with each of them and you'll be able to make a fully informed decision. Or we go to Medicare.gov. We go right here where it says Find Health and Drug Plans. We have the ability to enter your medications in and show you every drug program for the next year. What's the best one for you? I don't know. They change every year. We get to see the new programs starting October 1st. October 1st. You can make a change between October 15th and December 7th, a date that will live in infamy. Don't call me on December 8th, please, because you missed the boat. I'll see you next October. But this window, this ability to go to Medicare.gov, to enter in your medications, and it allows us to run a report. And here's a guy we ran this year. The premium for his drug program is $25. That's about mid-range, sort of, kind of. It does have the $505 deductible. And what's he taking? Well, there's atorvastatin, 0 copay. Uh-oh, there's the Eliquis. Hate it. I love it, but I hate it. They're saying here it's worth $523, but once he's paid off his deductible, it's only $47. He's paying $47 for a $523 drug. That's pretty good. Lisinopril is cheap. He's taking an inhaler, but that $47 is going to still run him towards the coverage gap because they're tracking the $523. And this even tells us, here it is, he's going to enter the coverage gap in August. And he's not taking enough expensive meds to ever get out of the coverage gap. But this gives us real functional information. It's a beautiful thing. Understand the difference of using a preferred pharmacy. Many people don't realize the difference. They'll sing about being an in-network pharmacy. In-network simply means they'll take your money with a smile. A preferred pharmacy is where you want to go. That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And every one of the drug programs has a different strategic partner. Some like Walgreens, some like CVS, some will go to Osco, some will cover different ones. But here, we would want to make sure that your value is the intersection of what are you taking and where would you be willing to go get it. We'll work with people and they'll say, well, I only want to go to Walgreens. That's fine. Then we're only going to look at the 8 drug programs that feature Walgreens. But could you walk across the street to Osco and save hundreds of dollars? You probably could, but not if you're not looking for it that way. People will run this report and they will fixate on the monthly premium. That's really not what you want to look at here. What this report will show us from the federal government is every drug program and the total cost for you for the year. And Medicare even sorts it from least expensive all the way down to most expensive. When you look at these drugs, one of the things that you should be doing is a reality check. Everybody hip to GoodRx? Have we heard of GoodRx? I know you're out there. I can hear you breathing. So this GoodRx thing is our ability to go outside of the drug program and just make a quick reality check. Medicare is traditionally slow at the uptake of generic drugs. Generic drugs take a while before Medicare says, okay, it worked out, nobody died, we'll put it on the formulary. But for example, you can see Cialis and Viagra have just gone generic. Cialis and Viagra, if you run them through your drug program this year, the best case scenario is going to pay about $100 a month for those meds. If you go to GoodRx and you see that, oh, look, it's available in a generic, it's $9, true. GoodRx or Blink Health, what's the other one, Laura, you've been using?
Cost Plus Drugs, I think, is that Mark Cuban.
Or Amazon's got one. These are tools that we have in our tool chest. It is your God-given right to pay too much for your meds. We salute you. But don't. You'd look and you'd see this Ventolin. It's now, that's what was used to be called ProAir, a rescue inhaler. The ProAir has gone generic, but even on this drug program, they're charging you $58 until you pay off the deductible. Then it's only $30. At GoodRx, this is like 18 bucks. Now that may not rock your world, but I know that getting these things for maximum value is our goal. It's a chessboard. We want to move the pieces on the chessboard to get the best possible value. Drug program's terrific. Here we are, A and B good, but not complete. Pick up a drug program, pick up a supplement. 3 pieces to your coverage, acting in concert, totally customizable. Your program could be different than your wife's program. It's a beautiful thing. And this is where most people are going to start their journey. Why? Because this is what mom and dad did. This is what all your friends did. And it's a beautiful place to be. And you'll make your decisions and life will move on. A year goes by, or 2 or 3 or 6 or 7, but eventually, Dad is sitting at the kitchen table, and he's got these explanations of benefits, and he's looking at the bills. And you know, honey, when we first signed up, this was all cool and fine, but now your supplement and your drug program at 74 is running us about $250 a month. And my supplement and my drug program's running us another $250 a month. That's $500 a month. That's $6 grand a year. And as far as I can tell, we went to the doctor a total of 5 times this year. $6,000 for 5 doctor visits. Is that smart? I don't know. But it's always good to have a reality check. And we'll catch a lot of people that we never worked with initially. They made their decisions, and they'll get referred to us, and we'll sit down, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I don't think you need the F supplement. I really don't. And let me show you why, because it's overpriced for what it does. And even if you've got pre-existing conditions, I've got a supplemental company where we can move you and potentially save you money. And I'm sorry, you didn't look at drug programs for the last 7 years? You gotta be kidding me, that's low-hanging fruit. And I know why you did the $43 drug program 7 years ago, because you were taking 2 brand-name drugs. But here we are 7 years later, those 2 drugs have gone generic, and your $43 program now is $96. What have you done? So we can tune it up and we can change it. And hopefully we can improve it. And maybe not every year, but every few years there might be the opportunity here. Just make sure you're getting maximum value. Or you might be tantalized. You might see ads on TV. Dental, vision, hearing, get all the benefits you're entitled to. These are called Advantage programs. We're not going to call them Medicare Advantage programs anymore. We're going to call it a private health insurance alternative. That's not a bad thing, but people get seduced by these ads and they drive me crazy because they're giving you a lot of sizzle, but they're not giving you the meat and potatoes and what you need to understand. Maybe, just maybe, this couple decides that they're going to take a look at Advantage, and I wouldn't begrudge them for doing so. But on Advantage, understand there are rules of engagement that are different than what they are over here. With an Advantage program, you're now agreeing to a smaller subset. Not every doctor that takes Medicare would be in an Advantage program. It'd be a smaller group. Could be a fine group, depending on your needs, but those groups will be different between the different companies that are offering you Advantage. These things are on fire. They're growing like a weed, because they are promising you the sun and the moon and the earth and the stars. And we do business with Advantage, but we're much more, I think, pragmatic about knowing exactly what you're getting into. Network restrictions and co-payments for services. Pay as you go. This is kind of, I mean, if you think of that G, that's the all-you-can-eat buffet. Once you've paid your $226, Katie bar the door. On Advantage, no. Every little primary is $10 or $15, a specialist is $45, an MRI is $200, the emergency room's $120, the ambulance was $280, a night in the hospital's $300. Different co-payments for different services on a pay-as-you-go chassis. That's not a bad thing, but let's understand when Joe Namath is saying zero this and zero that, he's cherry-picking 2 things out of an Advantage program and kind of intimating that the whole thing is a zero. It's not. You've got co-payments for services, you've got network restrictions, but very important, it'll have an out-of-pocket maximum, a firewall, a worst-case scenario. Remember where we started. A and B good, but A and B unlimited exposure. At least an Advantage program is going to put in a firewall. Depending on how lavish you want that Advantage program to be, they come in HMO. Anybody know what an HMO says? You keep everything with the same medical group, right? Everything with Advocate, or everything with Northwestern, or everything with Amita. You want to go outside of Amita? Not with an HMO. You stay in that network. Well, through the years, these things have really matured, and the companies have found out people like selection. That's a PPO. A PPO, you could have a PPO on an Advantage chassis and be able to go to Admita, and be able to go to Advocate, and maybe be able to go to Edward Elmhurst or Dooley Medical Group. The PPOs have grown in popularity, but anytime the insurance company does more, what are they going to do? Well, they're not charging you more because most of these Advantage programs feature a zero premium, but the PPOs are going to have higher out-of-pocket exposure because they gave you more flexibility. All Advantage programs supervised by Medicare, brought to us by private insurance companies, but Medicare is keeping these guys on a very short leash. All of them are going to have more restrictive networks, but the AARP network is different than the Blue Cross Blue Shield network, which is different than the Cigna, Humana, Aetna. They're all a little bit different, but there's usually a pretty good opportunity to find your doctors. They're all going to have co-payments for services, but every one of the companies has a slightly different variation what those co-payments are. They're going to have capped exposure. That's critically important. Worst case scenario. Well, on an HMO where they can control where you're going and what you're doing, that worst case scenario probably going to be between $2,000, $2,500, somewhere in there, but they're controlling where you're going. On a PPO, it could go $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And people don't understand that. That's what frustrates me. They'll watch a TV commercial, they'll make a 12-minute phone call, and they'll blow up their health insurance without fully comprehending what they've done. That out-of-pocket maximum is a critical number to be aware of. Most of them are going to include a Part D drug prescription program built right into the chassis. But it's going to have the same stages of coverage. It's going to do the same idea. You're going to potentially fall into the coverage gap, whether you have a Part D here or a Part D here. They're all built the same way. And there can be sweeteners in the drug programs. These Advantage programs are looking to lure you in. Sometimes an Advantage program may treat your medication more favorably than if you were over on the standalone. We want to look at that. We want... just a few years back, one of the Advantage programs was cutting edge, the first ones to offer insulin for a zero copay. Zero copay on insulin when most people were paying hundreds of dollars. That was a grabber. We moved a lot of people to that program because they saved a small fortune on their insulin. And they're all available to us every year during the annual election period. Even if you didn't take it eventually and you decided you wanted to try this thing further down the road, every year they'll take you from October 15th to December 7th, and they won't ask you any medical questions. They'll let you come to the party. Question?
Wasn't there a cap on the Medicare supplement? A firewall, as you called it?
Depending on what supplement you take, yeah. With the G, your firewall is $226. After $226 on the G supplement...
But on the others, there was still a cap as well, wasn't there?
Sure, sure. Well, for example, on the N, your cap is $226, but then the doctor co-payments and the emergency room copay. But here, we're talking about the potential for much higher out-of-pocket should something go wrong, but that's because you're willing to risk a higher out-of-pocket exposure for lower premiums, right? The supplements. No deductible was more expensive than the deductible, which was more expensive than the one that had co-payments, which was more expensive than the one that had the $2,700 out-of-pocket maximum. That's one way to drive down premiums. The other way to drive down premiums is to agree to network restrictions, and that's what Advantage is doing, is combining those two things. You got to be enrolled in A and B. People tell you that they use the word free. It drives me crazy. It can't possibly be free because you've got to pay for your Part B. That never ends. You've got to have A and B to do anything else. You've got A and B, and then what are we going to do? So on the Advantage programs, you must have A and B, and it is truly, we refer to them as Medicare replacement plans. That's a more accurate description. A private health insurance alternative. That's a more reflective. I don't think you're going to be seeing the commercials this next year with the pulsating Medicare card telling you to call the Medicare Benefits Hotline. That's a sales site. That's not Medicare. But boy, you wouldn't know it from the ad and the pulsating Medicare card. They're available by county. We are in a target-rich environment here in this DuPage, Cook, Kane, and Will. We literally have 59 Advantage programs that want your business, and they're beating each other over the head to win your business. How are they doing that? They're adding more benefits. And that can be a big difference between Advantage and standard Medicare. And it is true, these additional benefits, dental, vision, hearing, but understand, please, let's look at the details on that. A dental benefit is different than dental insurance, right? A dental benefit could be $50 towards their dentist as long as you go to their guy in Evanston. Some of them are more robust, but you pick up a program thinking you've got dental insurance, but they don't cover a bridge or a crown or a root canal. That's where the devil is in the details on these Advantage programs. Medicare is happy to have you go with a private insurance company. They're divesting themselves of all customer service, all calls. Everything now is being run by your private insurance company. These companies love you, and they love the fact that the government is paying them to run your insurance. We said they aren't running Medicare for the $164.90 a month. The government's dropping almost $1,000 a month on each of us. They will take most of that money and they'll mail it to a private insurance company, and the private insurance company says, wait a second, you're going to give us almost $1,000 a month to take care of Bob, and Bob's going to agree to stay in our network, which we've already set up. We got the computers and the customer service, and he's going to co-pay for services? Hell yeah, we can give him dental and some vision and a gym club membership. There's some things here that can make these very interesting, but again, we got to go through page 6 and page 7. Over here, you go for physical therapy on your supplement, it's all covered. Over here, you go for physical therapy on your Advantage program, that's 40 and 40 and 40 and 40 and 40 and 40 and 40. Most women will complete the course of action because they know they want the right outcome. Most men will get to the second appointment and say, 40 bucks, I'll do it myself. No, you won't. Liar. You need somebody professional to hurt you to make this thing work the way it was supposed to work. Most women that we've run into, they like to be over here because they like the idea of selection. And they understand you got to pay for something. You don't get something for nothing. Most men seem to operate on the Jiffy Lube philosophy of healthcare. As long as we get in and out in 20 minutes and I got a coupon, okay? And it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but this couple was ready to drop $6,000 next year. $6,000. Or 0 on the premium side. Here, they knew everything was covered. That's why they paid the $6,000. Here, if we're going to do an Advantage program, we always preach the gospel of the cookie jar. The cookie jar says, well, if you're not paying $6,000, I want that set aside for a rainy day because something could happen. And on Advantage, you're going to have co-payments for everything. But that couple, if they go through the same year that they just came through, they go to the doctor 5 times. The primary was $10 each. The specialist was $50. She went to the emergency room, thought she might have broken her leg. She didn't. The emergency room was $120. The MRI was $200. But still, at the end of the year, they haven't spent maybe a few $100s here where they would have spent $6,000 over here. Not everybody's cup of tea, but growing in popularity. And when your friends tell you, I have a supplement and I pay 0 for it, they don't know what they're talking about. You've got an Advantage program. Well, what's the difference? Wow, big difference. You better understand these decisions. You better make fully informed decisions. Medicare would protect you if you were over here and that couple decided to try this thing over here. They get a 1-year trial right. Medicare, always looking to protect us. Medicare gives you a 1-year trial right. Anytime in that first year you decide you don't like it, we can take you right back where you were, guaranteed, put you back with what you had, no problems whatsoever. But after that first year, it slides for a year or 2, and then you decide, you know what, I do want to go back to original Medicare. Why? Because I found out the guy that I want to see isn't in network. I can't get to him unless I've got a Medicare supplement. So you'd wait for the annual election period, and you'd go back, and certainly we can put Medicare A and B in place. That's not a problem. We'll just take that card out, dust it off. We're guaranteed to pick any of the drug programs. That's guaranteed. And we can go ahead and apply for a Medicare supplement. What was that again? We can apply for a Medicare supplement, but they don't have to take you. And that can be an issue. In Illinois, we have a blessing. We have a company that doesn't ask medical questions. That doesn't happen in Florida. That doesn't happen in most states. Many people will make this move and not hear that door closing behind them. That's what's really important, is to understand what you're getting yourself into and what are the ramifications thereof. I know that Medicare Advantage programs are on fire. 1, because they're a low premium, and 2, they pay the highest commissions in my industry. There's agents that we know of that 90%, all they're pitching is Medicare Advantage. If you work with somebody and the first thing out of their bag is Medicare Advantage, I'm just saying, hang on a second. You may not be looking after my needs as much as you're looking after your wallet. Question in the back.
Regarding that Illinois blessing, is that transferable? So if I'm in Illinois and I transfer into that program and then I move to California, do I keep it?
Well, these Advantage programs are only available on a county-by-county basis. There's a service area, because these things have to negotiate with the local doctor groups, right? There's no dually medical group in California, at least not yet, okay? But when you move to California, if you have an Advantage program, moving outside of the service area creates a special election, and you're allowed to make a new decision point when you get there. You're protected. If you had a supplement and you moved, the supplement would move with you because your primary insurance is still Medicare. The supplement is backing that up. So even if you had Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, you move to Florida, they'll still cover you because Medicare is primary, but understand the supplement is going to adjust their rates based upon the risk pool of where you move, right?
And then do you have to answer the medical question?
No. It would stay with you. But what would happen if you moved to Florida? There's a lot of old people in Florida. Right. They file a lot of claims. Your rates on the supplement will go up. I wouldn't blame you. How could anyone think of leaving such a well-run state as Illinois? That's what I'm saying. Please.
What's extra help for Medicare?
Extra help is where if you don't make a lot of money, there's programs that will help you. That whole world of Medicaid has different levels of qualification. There's QMB, there's SlimB, there's all sorts of, because different people at different levels. Think of it, it's the reverse of that income slide we looked at, remember? The more you make, the more they take, okay? The less you make, the more benefits are available to you. Extra help could help you pay for your prescription drugs. It could also possibly help you pay for some of your Part B premium. But that's all stuff that's done through Social Security.
So that would be where Medicaid pays for Medicare?
Medicaid is one of the programs, along with LIS, Low Income Subsidy, and Extra Help. These are all programs that are there to help people who don't have a lot of money. Very noble. Okay, please.
Can you take Social Security and not take Medicare until next year?
Yep, there's two different benefits there. Remember, Medicare is the medical benefits, Social Security. You can have one without the other. Hold off on both. That's a question for you and your financial planner, though, is what's that long-range plan for you? Schools of thought on Social Security, give me my money or I'll wait, you know?
You go on COBRA and collect Social Security, correct?
Sure.
But you cannot go on COBRA and Medicare simultaneously.
You wouldn't, well, you veer into a very dangerous area because COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage. So you got to be careful. It's a weird landscape and makes it weirder. COBRA is creditable coverage for your drug program, but as soon as you leave your job, you've got an 8-month window that you better sign up for Medicare in that 8 months, because if you don't, and I've seen people get burned because COBRA goes for 18 months. Why would I leave COBRA? Well, first of all, I think Medicare is going to be a better value, but COBRA could make sense if you're taking god-awful expensive medications. But that's a unique rabbit hole that we can go down together and figure that out. Please.
So how about the dental and the vision on these private, like their PPO or something?
Mm-hmm. That would be a comparison point. One company has $1,200 in dental. That's pretty good. One company has $2,000 in dental. Another company has $3,500 in dental. But it's a trade-off. Is your doctor in that network? What are the co-payments? Every one of it is... Each one of these benefits, they're trying to allure you in, right? On the HMOs, the more that they can control you, the more benefits they're going to give you. I understand you waving it away, but there's some people who love HMOs. That's what makes our job fun, is it's never the same thing twice.
Another question. So this is your business here, right?
Yes, sir.
So in order to come to you, there's going to be a fee for that, too?
Absolutely not. No, we charge nothing for our services. What we do is we represent the insurance companies. So they pay us. The idea is that, can we provide you a valued service and help you through the years and not charge you for it? The only thing we ask is that when people come to you, because they're going to come to you and they're going to say, how did you do this? How did you figure this out? I just want you to tell them, I got a guy, and send them our way. Because what we do is help you navigate. I got no dog in the fight. It could be any number of the companies, but with a value equation that each one is individual and different. What we do is figure out what makes sense for your particular situation.
Because I'll be needing this for next year. I turn 65.
Well, let's make an appointment. Okay. So please, in the back.
So my mother got her secondary coverage, I'm not sure how to put it, through the retirement plan of my father's work.
Okay.
So she's paying Medicare, but where would that, the fact that she's paying the pension people the premiums, does that mean she's got a supplemental?
It means that she's got an employer plan. And that is usually, used to be a really good thing, But what's happened is these employer plans are insuring a smaller and smaller group of older and sicker people. And a lot of times what we see, example, United Airlines recently laid off a bunch of people. Part of their deal was when you turn 65, you can have the United Airlines health insurance. Hey, that's terrific. Hang on, let's look at those benefits. It was not a very good deal. They had to have Medicare regardless, but in my world, I had a supplement and a drug program that worked out to be roughly $150. The United plan was $268. It was clearly better to go with Medicare. In her situation, that's all we'd want to do is sit down and compare what those options are. Our rule is, I'm not going to do nothing if I can't improve your situation. And we probably walk 2 or 3 people a week where, look, the good news and the bad news. The good news is what you've got is great. The bad news is David Wiley doesn't have anything to sell you. Okay, please.
To follow up on his question, I have a big one in June. So I should go online now, apply, and then come see you to figure out the third part?
Sure, sure. You're in the zone, and your application doesn't stop us from talking. Those wheels at the government can be grinding forward, getting you that number while we're figuring out what that option looks like. First question is, do you continue to work? Maybe you continue to work. Maybe you don't need this at all. But that's what we want to find out. Okay?
Yeah,
Please.
along those lines, creditable coverage, if you're self-employed, but
Nope.
no employees, that's not, that private
Nope.
policy.
No, if you're self-employed, and I know because I am, this thing is a breath of fresh air. I mean, you're going to dramatically improve your coverage from a network perspective. You're going to dramatically lower your out-of-pocket, even if you did the high deductible things, and you're going to tremendously lower your premiums. That's found money. Found money. You had a question?
If you get a target date when you think you're going to retire, how far in advance should someone come to see you?
Whenever you feel your blood pressure going up. Seriously. I mean, we work with people 2-3 years out just to give you a comfort level of what's coming. Okay. We see all the new programs, and supplements don't change. Supplements just roll over. The rates will go up a little bit each year, but it's the drug programs that are dynamic, and the Advantage programs are crazy. It seems like every year they're adding more benefits and such. But we get to see the new programs for the next year starting October 1st. So if you thought you were going to retire next June, then I'd say October, November would be a good time to get together, well ahead of the curve, and then I can show you exactly what 2024 looks like. I can't believe we're even talking about 2024. Right? Okay, please.
I have to, January I turn 65.
Of this year?
January next year.
Next year, okay, okay.
And around July and August, I plan on moving to Arizona. Is there anything, or anybody I have to contact that I'm moving, or do the benefits stay the same, even though I move on a state?
Well, with your union coverage, I would imagine they stay the same, but you got to ask your HR people about that.
Oh, what about your Medicare though?
Oh, so you're moving next year? Yeah. You wouldn't have to, we'd want to change your address, and we're licensed in Arizona, we're licensed in 17 states. Any place people are fleeing Illinois, we're basically licensed there, okay? But in Arizona, this would follow you there. It wouldn't be a problem. You'd need to make an adjustment on your address, and there would be an adjustment on your rate. Arizona would actually go down a little bit, healthier lifestyle kind of thing, okay? What else? What else? Please.
Illinois rate as far as risk? You said
pretty reasonable, but think about the city with big shoulders. People get up, they go to work, they get out, they drive around. You move to Indiana, your rates go down a little bit. I mean, you know, think of risk. In Chicago, people get shot, people have auto accidents, buildings fall on people. Move to Iowa, your greatest fear is being sideswiped by a cow. So your rates will go down. Okay, there's less risk there. But we can show you all that. The beauty of the system is that on the computer, we can show you any place you were thinking about moving. That becomes a critical component. I'm going to move. Great. What's the medical group you're going to use? I don't know. Is there a hospital nearby? I'm not sure. Those are things you really need to plan out. And what is the price? I mean, we probably get 2 calls a month. People hopping mad. Their rates just went up. Did you move? Well, yeah, we moved to Florida because I got rid of the snowblower, and I don't ever need to run my heater. And it just seems like when people move, they only put stuff in the good column. They don't think about running the AC. That's going to be expensive. They don't think about insurance being more expensive. You know, you're going to need an exterminator monthly. No. Yeah, have you seen the bugs in Florida? They'll carry you away. Nobody seems to look at the negative, they only look at the positive. But that's part of making a fully informed decision. And that's what we do. We try to help people navigate this world. People often, at the end of these seminars, they want to know, my God, you know, how is it possible that anybody does this all on their own? And I know how they do it on their own. It's simple. They do it wrong. They make mistakes. They make mistakes in every possible thing. And it's not like we can't correct them until further down the road. But you don't want to be the 91-year-old woman that finds out she didn't need to be paying $490 a month for her supplement. $238 served her quite well. Make smart decisions up front, revisit on a regular basis, make sure we're making fully informed decisions. There's no charge to you for our services. We've got an office in Lisle. We do a lot of Zooming. Robin lives right up in this area here. We'll meet you at a library. We'll come to your, whatever it takes to help you make informed decisions. We ask that you tell your friends about us. We have a whole bunch of seminars. We do this probably 50 times a year. And we have handouts if you want to know where we're going to be next. At least once a month, January through September. But then September and October, we're probably doing 3 a week because it's open enrollment. Please.
Just a comment, if I might.
Is it a positive comment? Okay. All right. Then I'm okay with that.
No, I very much appreciate the fact that you're doing this, that the library has facilitated it. And the reason I'm here is because I worked for a broker for 11 years. I've done HR and worked with brokers professionally over 40 years. And I know that not every broker has someone on staff that has CMS and Medicare training. It's a very rare thing. And the other reason I'm here is because I'm going to be 61. My dad is on Medicare. And when I asked him how he, you know, what he knew about it, how he could help guide me, he's like, well, I don't know anything about it, you know, but I've never had to pay a bill.
Look at that card. Look at that card. I mean,
I know. Well, his theory is that he has enough money to pay the premiums, and so, you know, well, I didn't need to know anything about it. I just signed up.
And insurance companies love him for that because his complacency is making them a fortune. Yeah. Thank you for your kind words. All we do is Medicare. Most of these people that are out there doing these free dinners and stuff, they don't really want to talk about Medicare. They know that'll draw you in. They don't really care about Social Security. They know that'll draw you in. They want your annuity. They want your transfer of your 401k from your employer plan. They want to sell you life insurance and long-term care and all this other stuff. We don't do that. Our lane is Medicare. That's all we do. And as a result, I think we have a mastery that many people don't have of that topic. I'd love to talk about Dad. Dad, you're getting ripped off. You're getting ripped off. And if that doesn't make him angry, but you know, these insurance companies, we've run massive studies, we've done consumer interaction and all sorts of panels, and you know the most terrifying word that a senior can hear? Change. Oh my God, change. I'm not going to change. And that's, I mean, it's amazing because we'll reach out to people. We get rate increase notices. And we'll reach out to people and say, hey, you know, it's kind of gotten above a certain mark now where we could make some moves. Who is this again? This is the guy that originally sold you the plan. And you're doing what? We're reviewing your coverage to see if there's a way to possibly drive down premiums. That's the best part of this business, okay? Big finish here. I love these people. Give us a call. Check out our website. We've got a video posted of another seminar that we did. The seminars are similar. It's the questions that drive the back and forth. Well, you got us up there, and I say thank you very much for coming here tonight and learning a little bit about Medicare. We're here to answer more questions, but your questions should be for Lori and Robin in the back. I'm pooped. Okay.